So why I felt this is very important topic for specifically for product managers, product owners, product leaders, program managers, right? Is because TPS brings a very different kind of a flavor. Okay, let me tell you how I got involved into this. While working for one of the large account in Infosys, what happened was that the margin of that project was 12%. Okay, and we had a challenge. The challenge was that we had to bring it up to 38%. The reason why it was to be brought to 38% is because we gave a lot of cost benefit, productivity benefit to the customer. Okay, to win that particular project. Right? Now, how do we do that? And using any kind of method, it was not possible. So I thought we have to do some kind of an innovation. Okay, and we have to somehow make it happen. That was the thought process. So I was running that account. This was in 2009, and we started with a couple of leaders, and we started brainstorming. What do we do now? How do we make sure it will happen? And some crazy ideas started coming up. We said, okay, we should reduce some people. We can save some cost. Okay, we should save some time. Can we do more with the same set of people? But how? The question was how. And that was not getting clear at all. Right? So let me take you to some of the challenges. Typically, do you see some of these challenges in any kind of, we are thinking from a leader perspective. Okay? Where you are owning the P&L, you are owning the product, right? These are some of the challenges where you get into a very highly competitive environment. Some of the challenges I talked about, that was the real life example from the projects. That you have to continuously improve and beat the competition, right? So that is one of the challenges. Next is, how do you do workforce optimization? How is it possible? Many times you have to cut down the workforce. True? The next thing, how do you make sure that our people are motivated? And these are typical challenges in every product management. Okay? Be it any life cycle. It could be right from the ideation, right from the design, or right from the implementation, whatever it could be, or maintenance, anything. Right? These challenges would be there. The next would be, how do you reduce the cycle time? Right? And these questions will be asked when you are having your quarterly reviews. Right? How do you improve your EBITDA? True? How do you make sure that our product goals are met? And how fast we can do that? Right? Productivity and efficiency improvement. Very common you have heard of this. Right? Performance metrics. How do you control your effort, your schedule, your defects and cost? Right? And how do you make sure that you are first time right? That's the key. How do you make sure that first time it is always getting right? You don't keep on doing a lot of reports. Right? How do you ensure that the knowledge management is in place? How do you ensure that tracking is robust? Now these are some of the challenges that I was also facing in 2009. And there was not one single system which could help us to achieve all of this. Okay? There is lean management, there is agile, but they don't address all of this. It is not possible. So what we did, myself and a bunch of people, we went to Vidadi. There is a Toyota Kirloskar Motors, right? And we met Vikram Kirloskar. We took an appointment, we met him, and started understanding how does he do things. Because they are a Japanese company, they manufacture cars. And we know that some of the process improvements are very high in a manufacturing plant. What do they do?
Any particular reason you choose them to reach out? And what was the thought behind
that? I'll talk about that. Mainly, if you see, people in manufacturing unit are more agile compared to a product development. talking about product development, we are still talking about mainly on the software side, right? Mainly on some of the applications. We are not talking about the physical products. Some maybe still be physical products. But when you are talking about a large product like a car, right? They have actually won the game in terms of doing all of these things. Yes.
You said deeply manufacturing and manufacturing. You said operation which are fixed. How they are more agile.
I know. Okay. My example will cover that. So we went there, and as you are also asking very curious, that curiosity is there that why did he choose those manufacturing plants and all. We started doing a lot of Google, right? It started with Google. How do I improve some of these things? And the name which continuously started popping up was TPS. Okay. And when TPS was popping up, we said, please implement TPS. And then we thought, where do we go? So we wrote a mail to Vikram Kilosar and said that we want to come and meet you. It's very important. We are doing something big. We want to improvise a lot of things in one of our accounts, and we need your time. And he was kind enough to give time to us. He called us, and then he took us through the entire assembly line. Okay. And I will talk about what exactly happened there. We were there the first 4 hours. They taught us what is change. Okay. And then they said that we just listened to the Japanese. They have told how to do TPS. We are just implementing. And then let me give you some examples. So there is an assembly line. Every 1 hour, one car comes out. Finished car, completely finished car. Okay, that was astonishing for me and for a lot of people. Right? So how do they do things? How do they make sure that all of these things are there? So the assembly line is there. Okay, the car which is being assembled is moving in the assembly line. Okay, it never stops. It is always moving till the time the finished car comes out. If you have to fix up a screw in the car, still the car will keep moving. The person who has to fix the screw will be moving on another belt. Okay, that is the kind of efficiency we saw there. And where the person will take the screw from, the screw is also moving. Okay. The person is holding the screw as if he is standing there, car is in front of him. He is taking the screw, fixing. So nobody stops. Okay. And then we ask this question: what if there is some problem in the assembly line? What will happen? So they simulated a problem for us and said that okay, let us stop the assembly line. They stopped it. Immediately there was a big visual, 2 bulbs started glowing. Okay, the first bulb said that the assembly line is stopped. The second bulb said where it has stopped, where the problem is, where exactly the challenge is. Okay, so they could know. And immediately the floor managers, they started rushing to that place, fixed everything in 2 minutes. Okay. So an assembly line cannot stop for more than 2 minutes. If it stops, their takt time is going to get impacted. Now what do I mean by takt time? The total time which is available during the day, okay, for doing all the production activities, divided by the number of units that needs to be released on that particular day. That is called as takt time. So their takt time will get impacted if the assembly line stops anything more than 2 minutes. So everybody, as soon as they see the bulb glowing and they see the next bulb which indicates which specific point the problem has occurred, right? Everybody rushed there. Within 2 minutes they will fix it and the assembly line moves. So this was something which was very insightful for us. Again, we said, unless we adopt this in a product, in a software, in an application, okay, we are not going to create that level of improvement We may be talking about 4%, 5%, maximum 8%, 10%. But can you think of 20%, 25%, 30%? And that can only happen holistically if we implement the concepts of TPS. I'm not trying to promote TPS here, but why don't we look at? So TPS guarantees one very important thing: high quality. Okay? Reduce cost and time, and faster time to market. In every leader's agenda, these three things are there. The quality of the product has to be very good, right? Cost has to be less, time taken has to be as less as possible, and how fast you can launch it in the market. Okay? All the concepts, all the levers of TPS, it covers these things. So what I am trying to do here is to give you a perspective. You may not implement TPS, but you can implement the concepts of TPS. You may not call it as a TPS, that's fine, right? But what's more important is, if you are able to implement the concepts, some of the levers, that is going to substantially give you a lot of benefits in terms of time to market, substantially high quality, reduce your cost and time. Right? So far clear? Okay, I'll talk about rest of the things. So all of these business challenges can be addressed through the concepts of TPS. Okay, and since 2009, I have been practicing TPS till date in anything that I do. In a recruitment engine also I have TPS. How soon we can make sure that the fulfillment is happening, how fast it is happening. Okay, so let us understand the typical definition of TPS. It's a framework practiced by Toyota to produce high quality. TPS says that to produce high quality with less cost and achieve faster time to market. Right? They have an integrated solution where the management, they want to implement these practices along with all the team members. It is something which is not to be implemented by a leader. As a product leader, you cannot implement TPS on your own. You have to have a whole bunch of your entire team members participate together to implement TPS. Otherwise, right? That's the thing. And
that was needed, say, change of mindset, right?
absolutely, that will need change of mindset.
So easy.
It is not easy, but once you change the mindset, okay, it becomes very simple. You have a question.
One question is that improvement, improving something continuously. Is that only limited because from the example of the assembly line in a plant, though it is a manufacturing plant, obviously it's an engineering function, right, where you really create a car, but afterwards there are still many other aspects which you need to run a business overall. For example, marketing, for example, sales, for example, maybe logistics, taking the car out to. Is there something which Toyota already did and you only took the engineering part out of it for your consideration?
We took the engineering part of it primarily because that is the one which will actually impact your cost quality. And right now, what happens post that? Well, in our scenario, when we are talking about products, we will have the maintenance part of it. Right? So we are not dealing with the marketing part of it, there are different processes for that. Right? But majority, you want to make sure that you are controlling your cost at that life cycle. After sales and all, that is different.
Time, quality, cost. These are three constants. They cannot be optimized all the time. Okay. So in that context, what we are doing optimization of these three parameters. So my question is, how these all three constraints are weighed as a quality?
Yes, I'll come to that. So let us look at the levers which will actually talk about, which will answer some of the questions. So one of the levers they call it as Panda. Okay, Panda means, in English it means a signboard. Okay, some kind of a visual representation. Okay, the example which I gave, those two bulbs glowing. It's nothing but some kind of a visual representation that something has gone wrong. Okay. So I will connect all of your questions that has come. Now imagine a scenario where you are doing your product roadmap and the implementation cycle is going on. And you know every minute, moment something goes wrong, you know exactly where it is going wrong. Will it improve your quality?
Provided I know it.
Provided you know it, right? And in order to know that, what is required to implement something called as a Panda, one of the lever, which is called as a.
So it's only engineering quality or the quality of the design?
It's quality of the design as well. It's everything, end to end. Quality of the design as well comes into that. Okay. So I gave the example of the plant. Now let me talk to you about Jiroka, which is another lever, which means automation with human intelligence. Okay. Now taking the same example of Toyota plant. Now when the car is getting assembled, you have to pour oil in one of the unit, right? This is exactly what we saw there. I'm just explaining that to you. So exactly the required amount of oil has to be poured, right? So how do they do that?
They have a filler which has got the exact content. Just pour it, the entire, which will not take much time.
Which will not take much time. Very valid, very valid. What if there is a leakage?
In where?
In the container. In both, any one of them, in the container.
First of all, they should see that there is no leakage.
There is no leakage. But how do you identify that the leakage exists? Or because not every assembly will have a leakage. Maybe one of the unit will have a leakage.
Prior to even pouring, they should be having a automated measuring system. There is a air leakage automatic device where it will detect the leakages.
Right. So very valid, very valid. But how do you do it in a foolproof way?
Vacuum system is there.
Vacuum
The
system.
whole vacuum system.
So I'll talk about how Toyota has implemented that. Okay. So in the container in which the oil is getting poured, there is some kind of a material which always floats on that. Okay. The moment oil is filled, it keeps going up. Right. The small, kind of a small lever which floats there. And the moment it touches a particular point, right goes. And the oil pouring stops. Okay. So this is how they implement it. Okay. So that is the kind of automation that they are talking about. Now let me talk about the next one, which is called as Okayoke. How do you avoid an error to move from one place to another place? Okay. Now taking the same example of oil leakage. If there is an oil leakage, that lever will not go up. Right? So what they have done, they have put something on the bottom, and that's giving a weighing machine. It's like a weighing machine. Okay. Moment oil drops falls there, the weight increases. Moment weight increases, the chemical goes. Right? So they have gone to that level of automation, that level of defect prevention. You able to get this? Right? So that's what is Okayoke. And then Kaizen all of you know. It's very commonly used, which is continuous improvement. Muda is nothing but how do you avoid any kind of a waste. Right? I gave one of the example of Muda where the screw is also moving, the person is also moving. They are saving that much amount of time as well. Now, one of the very good example which Vikram Kirloskar gave was that earlier they used to fix the doors, okay, and later fix the seat. So when they were fixing the seat, somebody had to open the door, and that was wasting a lot of time. So then they changed the assembly line in such a way that they first fix the seat and the steering, and then they fix the door. So these are very, very small, intricate details that they are going through, and using some of these levers, they are able to implement it. Next is production smoothing, and then we have just-in-time Kanban. You would have heard about Kanban, right? Muri and Mura. Muri and Mura is very important and it happens in every life cycle of the product implementation. Moving is overburdening. Some of the, either if you call it as people, some of the people will be overburdened, some will not. Right? If we talk about some of the implementation aspects, some of the programs, they will be overburdened. Some of the production is happening over where inventory is lying idle. Right? Mura is unevenness where some people are not loaded properly. So there is a lot of wastage of time. Right? So let me take one example of Mura where the freight transportation, when the train goes carrying a lot of freight transportation, right? When it goes from one place to another place, the load is there. But what happens when it returns? The cars are empty, right? So that they call it as Mura. Okay? And then Genchi Genbutsu, which means that you go and figure out what exactly is the problem. Okay, this is a very common terminology which is used by TPS, where they say that don't rely on anyone. If you go and figure out what is the real problem, you will be able to fix the problem faster. Right?
So this does not contradict with like micromanagement.
This does not contradict with micromanagement, because what happens is, in their context, everybody goes together and they see the problem. They identify the problem together. They don't ignore the rest of the people and say, I will go and check the problem. They do it together. So I hope all these things are clear, right? So holistically, if you are able to implement a lot of these concepts, right, your product delivery, your quality, your time to market, everything will be.
The way you say it's a scrum, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is a story from sprints, right? How can I use PPS in scrum?
I will talk about it. There are a lot of examples. See, Scrum will not address the challenges which we spoke about just now, right?
One question is like, I'm sorry, I don't really know that much about the assembly line. If I am a mechanical engineer from fixing a portion of say seat or a door or something, right? And I am also moving with the car, right? Obviously, it is to save time. But my work to probably fix a door is supposed to be taking say 5 minutes, ideally. Okay. And then for whatever reason, I am delayed on that particular car. I am already into my 15th or say 20th minute. There's already other cars which are coming up. So is it the case that somebody else takes my place and continue working on the other cars which are behind in the assembly line, or because I am delayed on one, everything else will also get delayed?
Right. So let's think about the seating arrangement as an assembly line. Okay. The car is moving from this place, it goes all the way and goes back to that last place. And all of you are sitting here. One person is fixing the screw, one person is fixing the door. So when one car is here, whose screw has to be fixed? There is another car here. There's something else here. And then you are fixing the door. So that is how it is. Nobody is like that.
But can it not be the case that the guy who is behind me in the assembly line, okay, he's also working on some other model which is about to come to me, okay? But here I am taking more time to complete my work. In which case, even though that guy is already done with his work, what he'll do? He'll move to the other one, he'll go backwards and
No, so you have a fixed time. Till the time the car is with you, within which you have to fix the door.
that is an expectation.
That is an expectation. Okay. If you are not able to do that, then they will look for opportunities of how do I reduce my takt time. They will fix the problem.
So one question is it a push system? And the system work. And there is another coming, so it is a more push, rather I finish and pull.
No, it automatically push. It's a push system.
So in the business challenges, you mentioned that like one of the challenges is how to build the domain knowledge, right? So in this, because like Sovan is talking about to build the domain knowledge.
I'll know. Any other question you have? Is this clear? Okay. So let's move on. So what I have done, I have just picked up 4 of these levers, okay, which is the Anton, which is called as a visual control system. Next one is Muda, which is waste reduction. Third is Kokai, which is how do you make sure that a problem is not moved to the next stage, okay, which is your defect prevention, quality control. And the fourth one is Ziloka, which is any kind of an automation that is required. So what I have done, these are some of the things that we implemented in a software lifecycle, in the product implementation. Okay, so like you could have a program dashboard, you could have light schedulers, okay, you could have some kind of a notification management system, and this needs to be developed one time so that it automatically takes care of it as and when you are completing the product. Okay, and this is where you also create your domain diagrams or the business footprint diagrams, so that people get a more better understanding of it. I'll show you some of the examples. You can have information broadcasting as part of Panda. As part of Muda, you could have awareness creation, optimization of the processes, okay, quality control. We'll take you to the next one. This is just so Andan, let us understand Andan. It's a visual management system. Very simple. Okay? And it depicts abnormalities, okay, with lot of transparency. What we are trying to say here is that anything that can go wrong in the implementation has to be depicted in a visual form. Okay? With lot of transparency. And moment there is a visual display, obviously the fix will be there. Somebody will have that urge to fix it, right? The trigger is automated. Okay? So let's understand. This is one of the implementation. This is on the schedule adherence. Okay? This one. This is on productivity. This is on effort variance. This is on quality control, product quality metrics. This is on appreciation. This is on something else. Right? All of these are there in that particular work area. Okay. Now your team members are there. Everybody is there working. They see this every day. What will happen? Every day you see, you as a product owner or product leader, you come and move on with you. Your team members are watching. What? Motivation. Right?
It's transparency actually.
Very transparent, right? So we are talking about, when we talk about Anand, we are talking about that level of transparency. Okay? Unless you get into that level of transparency, implementing Anand is of no use. Okay? So entire team will be aware of the goals and the performance. Right? Coming to next, what do? You come with your team members and discuss that why it is like this. And suddenly you will see that your team members will start taking ownership. Oh, is it? Let us fix it. Next week, let's ensure that this lever is moved. Okay? When you display who is that person who has done this improvement, that person gets motivated. And others start taking ownership to make sure. And then you can have your visual display of it. So this is the actual implementation in one of the product, right? Where we saw a lot of improvements. There was no follow-up required. There was no push mechanism which was required. People themselves started taking ownership and started implementing. Okay? So this is a direct representation of what I talked about, those two bulbs in a Toyota bulb. We don't have bulbs, so we thought what are the important parameters for us, what are the important metrics for us. Can we represent it in such a way that it is easy to understand by people and easy to improvise. Now coming to the next one. So columns can do before implementing that particular dashboard. You improve your product performance, reduce lag time, quicker resolution, and how do you ensure that the domain knowledge is improved? Okay. And for that particular dashboard was there. Next is how do you improve your SLA, time to market, performance improvement, and what are the different solutions which are possible through Anta. So I have listed all of those solutions, and I will take you through some of the examples here. This is a simple example of workload indicator. This is an automated system which indicates what is the load of each and every person in the team. If you are able to simulate this kind of a representation, you will exactly know how to get the most out of all the people that comes.
Are we talking about workload when I say work in progress and the number of queues in production?
It could be number of queues.
Yes.
We could have number of different dashboards. One could be how much work is assigned, that loading. One could be how much time is being taken by one of the individual. We can have that. But some level of automation is required to build this, okay, automate this so that it is always available. And when we are talking about some of these dashboards, imagine this entire place is a work area, okay. The dashboards are there everywhere. In all the corners, all the walls, it is available. Okay, nobody is hidden about any of this. Everybody gets to see this. It's not just coming in your laptops.
Initially, similar and then in physics, whereas the blue and red, they are saying, what does it mean?
No, this is just a depiction of, okay, depiction of, this is one individual, this is second individual, this is third individual. I've just depicted. So, both are different individuals.
What incidents here?
Incidents is an issue or a challenge or a problem or a error.
So we are tracking how many issues were handled by each individual.
How many issues are allocated to each individual?
So it's not a backlog.
It's a backlog. So this is an indicator for you to visualize how some of these things can be implemented in your scenarios. Okay. Now coming to turnaround time. Now I would want to show you this particular graph here or picture here. You see a lot of green and one red there. Right? Now every cubicle where people are implementing things, they have originally as a green candle. Okay. And now what happens? Suddenly the person has to fix something and he is not able to do it. Immediately what he does, he replaces the green with the red. I am talking about actual implementation right here. The moment somebody sees a red there, the entire flow, people come there, help that person fix the problem. Okay? That person's productivity is improved, and then everybody goes back to their seat in the startup. And then he replaces that red with a green. Okay?
Everyone is experiencing everything. When everyone knows.
When I say everyone, it could be a leader, it could be a small group of people who understand that particular module or a domain.
So this is similar to Kanban board.
This is similar to your Kanban, Kanban.
So the question is that how one person can have a look at one particular code rather than please. Example, I am at the code corner. How do I see?
Right. So this is on top of the cubicle. The person is sitting cubicle on top of the cubicle. Right. So it is. You just move your head around. You can see where there are reds and where there are greens. It has to be visually, depicted in such a way that it is visible to you. Right. So this is how you track the turnaround time and see whether things are improving or not. And this is the domain charts. Why these domain charts? If you see, the majority of the effort leakage happens because of lack of understanding. and that is the most ignored entity in almost all the implementations. Right? So what we had done is that these domain charts were also pasted on the box. So everybody knows where exactly the problem is. What is the workflow?
So basically a
Data flow, application, data, everything.
So here each line represents one individual or one process? Each green line.
So this is one process, this is second process, this is third process. Within that, how they are interfacing with each other. Okay. There are some programs. Some of these are programs. Some of these are your databases.
So what are the streamlines?
Streamlines indicates the workflow, the entire workflow, the process flow.
No, like we got multiple horizontal lines, right? Different swim lines. So why we are having multiple swim lines?
Because these are different actors, these are different entities. These are all different entities and actors. This is a representation, you could have it in any way. You can go to level 4. Okay? Now why this is required? Something very, very important which gets ignored. And this we started implementing only because of Panda. Because they have everything displayed on their floor. We said, why don't we display this? And we started seeing a lot of productivity improvement which is being done by each and every team member. Now let me talk about Jiropa. So Jiropa, what is Jiropa? Jiropa is nothing but your automation with human intelligence, right? So structurally identifying any kind of standardization which is required to make sure that there are process improvements and defect prevention through the implementation of some tools. Right? So I've just given a problem statement and a typical solution and a typical lever that needs to be followed. Any kind of analysis, wherever there is a problem in the system, you have to automate the finding of the problem as well. We went to that level where we identify, so these were all analyzers and tools. We created these analyzers and tools which will indicate the bugs and where exactly the bugs are. Okay. So this significantly improves your work. Regression testing. If there is a problem with regression testing or any kind of a field testing of your product or any kind of testing, or to create some of the testing tools. Okay. So what I have done, I have deleted some of the slides because they were very confidential, so I'm not able to show some of the pictures to all of you.
Just one question on analyzer. So does it mean that you will have, for example, in the software context, the traces of the, so that you can identify where actually the something has gone wrong? So what kind of?
So one is the traces, and we have written another program which will take you through those traces and figure out where the problem is.
And you will report that.
Give a report and say that
This is normal for mine. Please stop that issue. So you can directly go there.
right. So if a person would take about maybe 2 hours to find the problem, that particular code will tell you within 30 seconds.
So no need to debug for it.
No need to do. It's a self-debugging code. Right? Kaizen. Kaizen is your continuous improvement, and typical challenges in continuous improvement is non-standardization. Correct?
What do we
Kaizen. Kaizen
What do we change?
is standardization. Right? We talk about continuous improvement, but even before continuous improvement, if things are not standardized, there is no point to improve. Right? So we started with standardization, standardization of templates, standardization of technology, standardization of code, standardization of processes, and implement those across the entire life cycle. Okay? And if you are able to do that, you have achieved your first level of continuous improvements. Right? And once you do that, then only you talk about the continuous improvement. But the typical challenge which is there, we think about continuous improvement when there are a lot of underlying problems which are already existing. So these are the mappings that we identified, saying that these are the ones if we do, then you can definitely reduce your cost of product. Okay. Now, OKAP, which is you don't allow a problem to go from one place to another place, And for that, there are solutions like root cause analysis, your standard framework, your reference implementation, template-based programming, okay, control charts. Control charts. So control charts are very important. Where you are talking about, I'll give an example of a retail supply chain. Okay, a truck has to reach a particular store with a lot of goods. Okay. Now, it could be a problem that the truck has not got the inventory details, okay, and the requirement from that particular retail store, and then the truck is not moving. Okay, and typically what happens? We get to know only when the truck doesn't reach on time. Okay. So we could design a control system which will trace this workflow, and even before few hours of truck reaching, you can identify that there is a problem. Right? And once that is done, you prevent the issues, you save a lot of time, right? So this is about after implementation. You're talking about after implementation, right? The marketing part, the supply chain, right? So supply chain can only be done if you have your domain charts ready. You know exactly what is the workflow, what is the process. Without that, it cannot.
And this you also addresses about the quality improvement with the continuous improvement. Whereas PDCA is there, plan, do, action, and
Correct. Right. So why I'm highlighting some of these things is that we appreciate that these are being done in a manufacturing setup, okay? And as you are also talking about that, it is there, right? But we don't implement it in our scenarios. And that once you start implementing it, I have seen almost 30-35% improvement in quality, in the time to market, okay, in the defect prevention. We actually improved from 12% to 38% on the EBITDA. So that level of improvements can be there once the education is happened with all the team members and everybody gets involved to participate in implementation.
How do you take care of priorities? Priorities.
Yes, please.
One particular task to be done is a priority compared to a normal one. Or somehow general. How do you take care of this system?
You are saying that this is how you prioritize
Yeah.
and it is sequential.
It's not sequential. Suddenly a particular task has come which requires urgent attention, priority work.
Right.
How do you address this system?
But scheduling, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about scheduling. And you never expected that particular item to come.
Yes.
You never expected that to come.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. So one time obviously there will be a job, right? There will be a
You
problem.
take root cause
Then
analysis.
you will do the root cause analysis. And then we talked about one example of that truck not reaching the store. We actually figured out these kind of problems, and when you have control charts, the control charts will start throwing some kind of indicators, some kind of alerts, which will say that there is going to be a problem after 4 hours. And then we fix that. Okay. So your root cause analysis, you are quite aware of this, but this is one of the most powerful tool which I have found, known to everyone. Everybody knows fishbone diagram. Okay. But hardly people go and implement it. And once you start going and implement it, you will know exactly how to fix the challenge, how to fix the problem. Right? So I'll give you an example of root cause analysis. In a typical product roadmap, okay, you have your goals. You have your goals that you want to achieve through your project. Right? Now, if that goal is known to everyone, then only that goal will get implemented. Right? So first important thing is to make sure that you understand the goal, and that is populated down to your team members. Correct? Now, it is not necessarily that team members are going to fix it. They are going to implement it. Right? So how do you identify them as owners, them as accountable? So I'm talking to you about one of the live example. What we did, we called all the team members and asked them to list down all their problems, which will stop them to achieving that goal. Okay, and we got some 100 problems. Then we said, okay, let us combine these problems and figure out what are these common problems. And we ended up with close to 18 problems. 18 problems were common which could address all the 100 problems among all the team members. For each of the 18 problems, we did a root cause analysis. Okay. The team members started appreciating that the problem that they were talking about is not the real problem. The real problem was something else. It was all about they not understanding the technology, they not understanding the domain. Some people not motivated. Right? Then we started fixing those root causes, and automatically all the problems started getting fixed. Okay? Very common system, but highly ignored. And I have practiced this. It works beautifully. If you want to bind the entire set of all your team members, ask them to list down all the problems which will stop them to achieve the goal. Sit for 2 hours, get the root cause analysis done for all the set of problems. After 2 hours, everybody will be sorted. Right? And you will know it as a product leader what are the areas that you have to fix so that things will not create problem in the future. Okay. So this is the root cause, and typically, as I said here, there would be a small set of the real challenges which you have to address. Problems could be 100, but actual fix could be just 4 or 5. So identifying those 4 or 5 real problems is very important. I'll just given strategies and the flow. I'm not going into these details. Now, let me talk about MUDA. MUDA is very important. MUDA means how do you make sure that your waste reduction is there in place. So for this, again we went to the TK models. We asked them, what are your waste? Where do you see there are leakages? And they told us that there are 7 wastage in manufacturing. Okay, there is no 8 one, there are only 7. They said it is about transportation, inventory management, too much of inventory, motion, people are moving from here to there without achieving anything, waiting, somebody is waiting, overproduction, overprocessing, and defects. They categorize into these 7 categories. Okay. We said this is good because if you know these are the only 7, then it is very easy to address, right? So then we started mapping these 7 with what are the typical waste in a product or a service. And then what are the examples of some of these waste in the IT industry or in the product implementation domain, right? So we listed down everything, and the idea is to address each of these. The moment you address each of these, I challenge 30% of your effort will be saved. We have done implementation in multiple products. It works. Right? Your data and information movement, unnecessarily it is moving from here and there. Building modules for future use, just because that person is sitting idle. And some of those modules later take away a lot of your work to fix the defects, which is not required. Right? People movement, waiting for work, developing extra functionality which is not required, doing more reviews and testing, doing something too much, overkill, and writing a wrong set of programs, code, functionality, or anything, or sending some wrong things, wrong alerts to some other place where it is not important. Okay? So the important aspect here is that if you look at these 7 different types of waste, and if we look for how do we prevent this waste, come up with solutions early in your life cycle, you will be able to do something which 90% of the people will not do.
Okay, so value stream analysis, how it is.
See, value stream analysis, what I mean by that is that you know what is your process flow. Okay? You identify the process flow. So when people are making the process flows, there itself they inject the waste. That you all notice. Sometimes would have, in your experience, you would have done that. When you make a process flow, you would have depicted some 20 different processes which are connected or intending to each other, but only 12 are relevant. The rest 8 are there just for depiction, just because you want to fill up the spaces. And finally, that gets into your product. Right? So, value stream analysis is where you look at one process and figure out what is the value this particular process is giving to me, giving to my customer, giving to the stakeholders. Is it really required? If you know it is required, you keep it. If you know it is not required, you remove it. The second aspect of value stream analysis is prioritization and changing the workflow itself. You may think this is the right workflow, but in reality, if you change the workflow, you can save something more. Right? Some processes become earlier and some later. Okay. So I'm all talking about it to create that level of awareness. That awareness, if it exists, not a lot of work can be done. Okay. Now, coming to what are the typical steps of EPS implementation. First, you pick up whether you want to really implement or not. And once you identify that I want to implement it, it's extremely essential to sit with everyone in your team and brainstorm and identify what are the possible challenges or problems that we could face in future. Anticipate all kind of issues which could lead to low quality, okay, which will lead to higher defects, which will lead to delay in time to market, right? Leakages in terms of your effort and schedule. Okay, identify all possible challenges and start mapping those challenges with your respective TPS level. Okay, once you map it, then you start developing prototype. So when we talk about prototyping, developing prototype is very easy. But whether that prototype is giving value or not, that is something has to be questioned. Right? So you may put a visual depiction, but it is not giving me that value. So you have really done the mapping, you have created a prototype, but you go to the level where it will actually improve the motivation of the team, it will actually give the transparency, right? It will actually motivate the people to go and fix the problem, okay? And it will be automatic. Unless you achieve to that level, it's really not a depiction. Okay. And then you deploy the solution and then you start improvising and distributing. So these are the typical steps of implementation. What are the typical challenges? Let me talk about this. And most of you would be aware, I've left a lot of spaces blank here. I want to hear the challenges from you. Okay, so I've just put 3 of these. Buying from all the stakeholders. Anything new, anything which is going to give me benefit, people deal. Okay, and not everybody is in agreement with that. Now, this is your responsibility as a product leader. Your topmost responsibility, whether you implement DPS, whether you implement one of these levers, or you call something else. As long as something is giving you some benefit, okay, it is your responsibility to make sure that all the stakeholders agree to your point of view. And this has to be done very, very early in the life cycle. Okay. Difficult to bring a lot of change in an ongoing process. Right? What happens is that some process change or some mindset change, we're talking about mindset, right? It may take 6 months, but it will give you benefits for another 10 years, right? So that mindset change or that reluctancy to change has to be fixed at the root cause level. Okay? So I'll give one of the example. The only way for us to improve the EBITDA was to reduce the number of people. Okay? And then how do we reduce the number of people? The moment you go and tell everyone that we are trying to reduce it, They will say, hey, I'm busy, right? I'm busy, I have a lot of work. Right? So we started listing down what they are doing exactly. Asking them to put something called a unit of work. You tell what exactly you are doing and how much effort you are doing. That's okay, whatever you can do, no problem. Okay? And we started measuring it for 3 months. We just measured it for 3 months. We started coming back and saying that I have so much of time. Right? So involve people. Then we said, what can you do? You are doing this model, can you do something else? Or is it difficult for you? They said, no, I can learn. Okay. They started coming back with solutions which will help reduce the number. So as a product leader, a more of inclusivity, bringing that inclusivity, right? Involving people, making sure that you share with them the responsibility of the product owner. And they appreciate that. And then you appreciate their work. That is very important. And prioritization of issues, you talk about prioritization of issues, right? Or challenges. These are typical complexity which is there. You already have a set of problems. Now you want to introduce something more. Obviously, there will be a lot of reluctance in taking that up. Okay, but again, we still did this by saying that let us have a small group of people who implement it as a pilot. Let us see whether they are able to see the improvements, and then we move into the rest of the area. And once you start doing it, people start doing it. Right? Any other challenges that you think that
Decisiveness in reaching to an agreement, say for example, in terms of a design, right? If you left it open, people keep on changing things. Right? And I mean, somewhere you have to agree saying that okay, this is what is final. This is a final design. Now let's create a code around this. Buying from all stakeholders, I think, very much makes sense in the very early phase of. I am talking more from the level where you are already into the development of your feature or whatever enhancement. There also I have seen that people still want to make a lot of changes. They want to fiddle around as soon as possible. I mean, as long as possible, they want to fiddle around with things. So somewhere it has to stop, because unless it stops, right, and something else can also break because of whatever new changes that you are doing.
More challenges, technology challenge, like what technology is used. Is there any particular framework, technology framework that we use to
any technology? This entire thing can be implemented in any technology.
But there has to be a framework, right, based on which.
So, when you talk about framework, we want to understand which particular
blueprint of the steps to take, or like every lever that is implemented, the blueprint or the technology, the blueprint of that, of what exactly needs to be.
So, if you go to, let's go to the first slide where I talked about the challenges. The other challenges is over. Yeah. So this is, as a product leader, you will be faced with these challenges. Okay. Where somebody will question you why something is not moving, why there is no improvement, why it is taking more effort, why there is a schedule problem, why EBITDA is not good. You will start getting some of these challenges. Right? So what you do is, for each of these, you have to identify something. Each of these there has to be a lever. And then you figure out whether it is Andan, or it is Kaizen, or it is Muda, or something else. But for each of these challenges, if you identify, sit with your stakeholders, identify how do I fix this problem. Then you will start coming up with different levers, and in each of these levers, what you can implement. Okay, so I have given you some of the examples, which is a direct mapping. Right? Now, the actual implementation of it has to be some code. That will require some years.
And also, is there a template, for example, like certain templates as we follow for each of these parameters, right? What needs to be.
Yeah, so for the template part, what I have done, you see, after a lot of brainstorming, right, we have first come up with these things. If we have to implement these four, then these are the different things that needs to be there. Okay. Your waste reduction is about first creating awareness. People should know that there is an effort leakage happening because of that. So these are the lists that I have given here. And then what I have done is a sample problem statement. What are the typical solutions for it? Okay. Now coming to the actual template of it. The actual template will be something like this. It could differ for you, but actual template. So why we picked up something like this? If you see this particular template, or this particular template here, you see that there are green, there are red. Something which is acceptable, something which is not acceptable. So you usually indicate in such a way that people, just by looking at it, it is very simple that ye theek hai, ye theek nahi. Right? So you have to go to that level of detail. But then actual template, that is something which cannot be shared with you. You can look at this and you can start implementing.
We measure the effectiveness between two implementations.
Two implementations,
Yeah.
like
The effectiveness, for example, like in two different circumstances or two different companies can implement it. They implement it in different ways. How do we measure the effectiveness if there is no standardization?
what I would suggest is don't measure the effectiveness. Okay? Your first challenge is to fix the problems. Okay? Make sure that your effort reduction is there. That is one of the challenges. Only focus on that. Don't focus on the effectiveness. Once you have implemented that, then you talk about effectiveness. Okay. So let me give you an example. This dashboard has this one, which is nothing but an appreciation column. Actually, if you see, it was not effective for us because it is hidden behind a lot of different parameters. So what we did, we created a separate dashboard for appreciation. It was a lot more bigger picture, bigger write-up, visible as soon as people enter that particular flow, it is visible. Okay? And then we ensured that it is changing every 15 days. So that created the effectiveness. So first implement and then effectiveness. Effectiveness is okay. See, as part of product, your entire product life cycle, right? It's better not to achieve perfection. Progress is more important than perfection. Progressing is important. Okay? Perfection will automatically come when you keep progressing. Just to make it perfect, we'll implement. It becomes that we'll implement later. Okay? So it's very important to put this particular mindset in your entire team members. Don't focus on perfection. Let's progress. Let's take one more step. Let's take one more step. And over a period of time, it will become perfect. Okay. If you are able to understand this, you will be able to drive a lot of initiatives, a lot of changes, a lot of improvements. You will be able to drive. Okay.
So, challenges could be different level of understanding. So, maybe you are someone implementing it, and different team members at different levels understand it differently. Right? So, when they actually implement it together, just because they have understood it differently, there might be some disagreements.
Right. So, how do we do that? Right? How do you fix that problem? You could actually go to DKM. It's a mindset change, right? Unless somebody sees it, one of the lever is you go and see it by yourself. You take your team members, one day drive down, take appointment, see what happens there. That itself will change people's minds. Okay, how to implement it. Second is, you have seen this, so you will give that view. If you need support, I can also support. If you need any support for TPS implementation in any of your products, I can come, I can support you. I can help people understand. Sometimes when you are talking, it may not work out. When you just call someone external, people start accepting. And then it is all about not saying that this is right, this is not right. Okay? It has to improve over a period of time. So you take everybody's views and start grading. So some of these visual charts that we created here, this particular one, okay, this came out as one of the team members' idea, saying that why don't we do something like this? Okay, so you have to accept a lot of solutions. People have a lot of good ideas they will be able to bring out. This becomes your key. The domain charts becomes absolutely. Without this, things are very fair. Yeah, Michelle, you are talking about some more challenges. So, are you appreciating what I presented just now? Right? Is it going to add a lot of value to you? Yes. Yeah. Right? So, what I have seen is that when you do something like this, hardly somebody is actually implementing these things. Okay? And when you start implementing, either in your company or when you are doing your own entrepreneurship journey or startup or wherever it is, you automatically stand out as someone different who is trying to do something really a good improvement. And we talked about first time right. First time right is not about fixing all the problems, but identifying the problems. Okay, first time if you are able to identify the problem, that is more important than making the best product. Okay, so again I have put some benefits of TPS, some soft benefits, some real benefits. Okay. Any type of quality and productivity parameters, you could see an improvement.
How do you motivate innovation?
How do you?
Motivate innovation.
How do you motivate innovation?
In awareness.
You can award.
With this TPS system.
You can award them. You can appreciate. You can award. Some award which will encourage innovation.
Have you also implemented it the ongoing project which has its own deadlines because but still implement is there?
Some we have done. If there is a very tight schedule, you are just not able to do
Because
it.
there is a lot of back-end work is required here to understand the system. So for any new project you are starting, then you can do the study and then start.
So what you could do, you can become that champion. You can become that champion, and once you have implemented in one of the new projects, right? Now there is another project which is you can reuse some of these things and directly put it there. Some you can do it just to get the quick improvements.
There's another challenge that in my organization we are facing when the implementation has happened. We are implementing TUC, theory of constraints, and even in that, all the whatever the things that you mentioned, it's covering everything.
Right.
The ultimate what they are saying is, if you control the WIP, that is work in progress, on a daily basis, do these daily flows, meetings on every 15 minutes in the morning, then definitely you will achieve the maximum output. Delivery of the project will be very high, the rate at which it comes up. The problem is, people are, the mindset of people are seeing that it is not really helpful for them. That is the biggest challenge.
Is it visually depicted?
Yes. We have a sheet over there written, and the number of scopes and deliverables has to be written by each and every guy who works on the point.
Okay. We can connect offline.
Sure.
Okay. And if there is an opportunity, I can come and see what is happening.
Yeah, sure.
And I can suggest.
Going back to my question was basically in the TPS car manufacturing. If I am manufacturing one particular model of car, I know what all goes into it. Even if I have manufacture one car on 100,000, there's a predictability involved, right? But if I'm running Scrum, so Scrum, even though you would have grouped the user stories, each user story could be of different story points. And suppose my capacity is say 20 story points per sprint, right? Suppose I'm targeting that. And somehow, if I'm going to implement TPS in that, right, how will that help?
How will that help in terms of what you want to achieve? What is
Suppose
the end objective?
suppose I want to improve my sprint velocity.
You want to improve your sprint velocity.
So I want it to 20, I want to make it to 24 or 28 story points per sprint.
Got it, right? So very simple. You want to improve from 20 story points to 24 story points. Right? The first thing is you can look at Muda. Right? First lever, very simple lever. Identify how do I improve my velocity, which means where are the effort leakages which are going on. Identify. So you have to review that story points. Say how much time that is being taken, why. So those 7 different types of effort leakages, the leakages, right? In manufacturing we have had to solve that. Right? So you can use that. This one. This one. Improve productivity. The first step is the line inputs. What are the best? Okay. So once you identify what is the best, there has to be a brainstorming point. You pick up one of these and say, where do I, whether it is this, or it is building models, or what exactly it is. And you try to remove the rest. The second important aspect is you can come up with process flows and say that which process flow is adding value, which process flow is not adding. And then you can use
Actually, fishbone diagram is great.
fishbone diagram is classical diagram.
So, adding to this point, when you say define user story point, with some understanding you define that. But the moment you put in hands, you feel like some sort of complexity is involved to achieve that particular user story. In that case, like how you do things, complexity part.
I didn't get that. So, see what happens in a agile implementation, right? The story point is not measured in comparison with some other team.
Correct. Just to that particular team.
Just to that particular team.
Correct. Absolutely.
Right? There could be 1 or 2 story points which is highly complex. Correct?
Correct.
You break it down into 2. You could do that. So what's very important is break down
To as simple as
every packet, work packet into 4 hours. Anything which is spilling from an agile implementation, I'm not talking about TPS now. From an agile implementation, you do your stand-up meetings, right? Typically people will say that no, this work did not get done. I'll do it today. 75% complete. Today I'll be able to finish it. Okay? That itself tells that I have not made it. So the main key benefit you can achieve from agile only if that person is able to complete that task on the same day. So make it as a 4 hours pattern. If it is complex, break it down. Break it down into.
But here I have a question. Are we chasing the time or are we chasing the quality of work that we do so that there will be no reworks done? Because the debugging is also the issue when you happen to retest the code. So I think in Agile we are chasing the time than really the quality of work that we do.
Absolutely.
So I have a little concern with that.
Right. So that is the reason why I said in the beginning that when we are trying to figure out how do I achieve some of those challenges,
Right.
I could not find a simple process which will be able to address all of those.
Right.
Right. And that's why I had to go back to this.
That's great.
So with this, you have some work with Agile and implemented, or it's just only with this?
It could be anything. This is not specific to Agile.
But in your implementation,
We had different scenarios. So since 2009, I have been implementing TPS. In whichever company I work, whichever product, project, wherever it is, I keep
Is
it.
it a proprietary framework or like it's
TPS is not a proprietary framework, but the actual implementations that we are doing, that's becoming proprietary.
So do we have to attribute someone for that or we can just implement it? Is there any attribution required while in implementation or no?
This is the, I think, textbook written by TPS guys, Toyota guys. Then you can just take it and implement it.
You can, they are talking about the manufacturing. What we have done is simulation of the same thing in a product manner.
But which can suit your requirement.
Which can suit your requirements. Okay, and you can customize it, you can tailor it, you can do the way you want, as long as you are able to meet those three objectives. Okay, and those three objectives are the only objectives that you focus on as a product leader, right? Without that, nothing matters. So, I'll just touch upon some important point here is, what I want to say is a simple and quick to implement, as long as everybody is aligned. Okay? You can have real-time algorithm, you can keep the motivation level high. So what happens typically in any kind of a scenario? People say that I am not learning in this. Have you faced this challenge?
Yes.
Right? When you do something like this, ask people to come up with a visual. They will be a lot more motivated and they will say, okay, let us do it like this. So, any kind of an initiative, any kind of this kind of initiative or any kind of innovation which will involve a creativity to be there, people attribute it to that, saying that this is my work. Okay? And they attach saying that I am learning a lot of things from it. So when you implement it fresh, you actually can give a lot of value to your people, and they will become a lot more inclusive. They will start approaching you for more opportunities, more work, and overall as a team you can do really well.
Then there's a challenge here that the organization management should be recognizing what the initiative that an individual or the group that you are taking. Otherwise, they'll also think that it is, if the management is thinking that it is of no use or benefit to the organization, then definitely the other guys will also not do so. So you should have also convince the buy-in the organization management.
So your only responsibility is, how do I save effort?
Yes.
Right? For that, whatever you implement, everybody in the management will agree.
Then first, before implementation,
Simple problem things you can start.
yes.
Now, where there is a cost which will be involved is making those charts, taking printouts of that. So initially, what you could do is you can make it run off the software, okay? Put it on a television, and then later convert it into it. You have to also educate the management, saying that this is giving value to me. You have to show that improvement, and then if you are the product owner, it's your own company, you can obviously go and implement it the way you want. Right, so this is all about what I wanted to cover. Okay. Any other questions or anything is there? I'm happy to help. So just the Q&A or anything else you want.
Have you gone through the POC? Then that is it is given by Elliot Goldrock, very physicist and Dave. He has framed out this theory of constraints. There's a book called Goal. And it is, so even that is talking about most of the principles we discovered in PPTs.
Sure. Check. You would like to know anything else? Will this be useful?
Yes.
Okay. So my time spent here will be valuable only if you implement it. Okay. Otherwise, it is of no use. So thank you.
Thank you.